It's not about what the woman is doing. It's about the construct of the mind. We live in mind. The same way that you have a brain, and the brain has different parts, and we can have, let's say, the so-called reptilian brain, the limbic brain. These are all, quote-unquote, the cerebellum in the back, and then the cortex, which is associated to a more masculine aspect. It's more calculative. All the realm of the mind is the realm of the subtle. It's organic, it moves, it doesn't follow rational physics. So how can you understand the world you live in? How can you understand yourself? How can you understand your makeup if all you understand is surface? It's like people studying the human body, okay? You go to university and you go study physics, or you go study chemistry, and they give you these formulas as if that actually describes the human body. Then you go do biomechanics, where they show you vectors of forces passing through bones and where they reach. And I'm not saying that that's not there. I'm like, do you think that in any way, shape, or form explains how the body works? And that to bring health is simply it's all you need to do is crack a vertebrae or two to bring so-called alignment back into the spine? I'm like, to actually think that this is what health is like, it's laughable. It's a joke, it's a cosmic joke, it's the biggest joke. I'm like, that's not how the body works, because the body is not limited to the surface. I'm not saying that this is not there, I'm saying what constructed it. So it's a mind that has constructed the body. What constructs the physical world? It is a mind that constructs it. A specific kind of code. And the code doesn't follow, quote unquote, masculine, linear, is the key word, linear coding. It's not linear at all. So I don't want to say what it is because I don't have the words. It's spherical. It's one thing. It's multidimensional, and it appears chaotic to the man, to that rational, very rational mind. And unless you understand the realm of the mind and the subtle energies and how the energies combine together, give birth to another thread of mind that can combine, and how all these threads can coexist at the same time. We're talking about layers upon layers upon layers upon layers upon layers, mixed with other layers and other layers, all of this, and it's all at different time sequences all at the same time. I'm like, this is not linear math. So your average guy with his very linear understanding of reality thinks that this is how life functions, thinks this is how his body functions, thinks this is how his mind functions, thinks that this is how a woman operates. But the woman doesn't live in the linear world. Her mind doesn't think like this. Her mind automatically is tuned into the more subtle aspects. When I say the mind, I'm not talking about the mind, I'm talking about the matrix in which we're living in, the elemental construct. So how are you going to understand anything about life if you don't understand the mind in which you live, that has constructed your body, that has constructed the woman, that has constructed your relationship, that has constructed the world you live in? How could you understand that? You can't. You only understand it at the surface. And if it wasn't for society, which celebrates stupidity, in other words, which celebrates surface, you wouldn't be able to function. If it wasn't for society that enforces superficial law, surface law, you wouldn't be able to function. Because life is complex. There's so many layers happening at the same time, collaborating, moving, bouncing off of each other, kind of like the world of the dream. But this is just the surface it's just a basic example. Well, how do you understand that? Well, don't tell me it's not real. You have dreams every night. Yeah, but look at how convoluted it is, and this is just the surface of mind. I'm talking about, imagine how deep that goes and how it interconnects so many planes of consciousness at the same time. And what is that? So what I'm trying to say is that unless you understand this, how could you understand yourself? How could you understand how you feel? If you're a so-called scientist, how could you understand life or creation? If you cannot even access this, and you're just stuck in one linear approach to everything. How could you understand woman? And then how could you understand what I'm saying, that woman is the mistress of that world? This is her playing field. When you talk to a woman, as a guy, and you're trying to take her from here to there, and you take her from here, and then suddenly she bounces, and she's in another dimension, talking to you from the other dimension, and you get so upset, right? You're like, I don't understand. I'm trying to take you from here to there, and suddenly you're just somewhere else, and for her, it makes total sense. Well, I'm not saying that she's not trying to trick you or she's not insane. I'm saying, well, where'd she go? It's a form of mental plasticity which gives you a sense, and I'm not saying that she did right or didn't do wrong. I'm like, she can just go somewhere else, which is in a parallel world. Oops, in another one, in another one, in another one, in another one. And you're looking at her and you're like, are you fucking stupid? And in a way, from a linear point of view, it's the stupidest thing in the world, especially when you're trying to resolve something concrete, right? But this is not to talk about that because that's clearly also sometimes used as a deceptive tool to never get to the point. But I'm just trying to say, look, it's just, but your average guy would never do that. Either their linear logic is illogical because they're morons. They would never, it's very like linear. Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Well, that's not how the mind operates. The mind is a composite of so many minds and so many parallel worlds all weave together. And she's just there, and that's natural for her. So imagine if she actually developed her skills. What kind of power she would have. Because now her skill set is undeveloped. She has an innate skill. It's very undeveloped. The schools where once upon a time they used to learn this, it's no longer available. Or if they are, they're bullshit. They're a bunch of morons online teaching you nonsense. These traditions have faded away. But imagine if she had the skill set and she would develop her innate skill set, what kind of power she would have and what she would be able to do. What I'm trying to say is that power is still there and it's still operating. It's just operating unconsciously. And we are all in it and subject to it. That's all I'm trying to say. And I'm not saying that men don't have access to that. Of course we do. That's not the point. We've lost access to this. We pretend it doesn't exist. Men pride themselves in their surface capacities. Like, no, I understand. Like, listen, your physical feats are awesome. I'm not going to remove that. But you've made life just that. And then you go interact with the woman just at that level. I just told you, this is her realm. This is what she relishes the most. And here you go, as a surface dweller, a moron, who knows nothing about her world. Or it's not even in her mind, it's not her world. It's reality. It's 99% of what's happening. You just hear, and you go interact with her, and you think you can satisfy her. You're a boy for her. You're a little toy. You don't even know how to swim in that ocean. Now, if you learn how to swim in that ocean and you reclaim that capacity, now that's a whole other conversation, but that's not the conversation we're having right now, is it? So that's what I'm trying to say. So what is a man going to gain? I'm like, well, everything? How about that? An actual understanding of what's happening, how the world works, how you work, how the woman works, how creation works, how life works. You'd gain access to 99% of the knowledge you don't have access to. Therefore, your understanding of the problems that you're facing or that the woman is facing, that we are facing, would be all the more clear instead of just a stupid surface narrative. And therefore, maybe you could do your job, which is to solve problems, but actually understanding the problems so that you could solve it. Instead of building rocket ships that go to Mars. Right? So you're using all that intellectual genius. I'm not going to remove your genius so that you can build a rocket that goes to Mars. And who fucking cares? Like, who fucking cares you can go to Mars, dude? Who fucking cares you can build a ship that flies to Mars? You can't even fucking handle your woman. Get the fuck out of here and go to Mars, you fucking prick. I don't want to talk to you. You're a fucking joke. Get the hell out of here. No, leave. I'm in a bad mood. You've made it in a bad mood. Take your rocket and shove it up your ass. That's what you need. A fucking rocket dildo up your arse. Anyways, I'm sorry. I got to say these things. I'm being honest because men's ego is so fucking... You're an idiot. That's all I got to say. I don't even want to make a sentence. You're a joke and you're a joke for her. And the reason is because you have no idea how the mind works, and we live in the mind. And you pride yourself with your accomplishments because you can, from the surface, have the impression that you're controlling nature and therefore controlling woman. But you're not, because that's the capacity of nature, can just morph itself. It can just do whatever it wants. If it wants to please you, it will adapt itself for you. But underneath the surface, it's adapted itself and you don't know. That's why I'm frustrated with you, because you're a fool and you're using your genius in an obsolete way. Instead of actually understanding the situation, understanding what life is about, so that you can actually think properly to find real solutions to actual problems that we have. Look at the world we live in, is it not? If you can build rocket ships to go to fucking Mars, shouldn't that mean that you're a genius and that we, humanity, is a genius? And then look at the world we live in. It's never been in such a shit place ever. So what does that say? That means your genius is not genius. It's nonsense. In fact, you're building rockets because you want to go away from here. It's proving the opposite. You haven't developed a mastership of this realm. You've proven your lack of mastership because all you're trying to do is to get away from this. You don't understand the situation. You don't understand the problem. You don't even know how to solve it. Your own children hate you. Like, do you get this? Your own daughter despises you. But you are building a ship to go to Mars. Think about this. Like, take it from my point of view for 2 seconds and think about this. Like, isn't it odd? You can build satellites that float around all over the earth so that 5G can be shared to all humanity free of charge. Right? Yet you can't have harmony in yourself, in your own life, with your family members, with your children, with your wife, or your ex-wife. And these are the basics of the human experience. So it clearly shows that something's flawed in your approach, and it shows that something's flawed in whatever you call intelligence. It's clearly not intelligence because it doesn't solve the basic problems. It makes them worse. So at what point do you stop and think? You are the man of intelligence. At what point do you stop and question what kind of intelligence you have? And this is not to remove the fact that you can build a super plane and it's fucking cool. Yeah, it's great. Like, does it change anything? Absolutely not. But yeah, now we can go from Montreal to Dubai in 2 minutes. We can go to from Tokyo to San Jose in 10 minutes. Who fucking cares?